What's up, everybody? Good to see you again. Now, if you're watching this video somewhere between 2021 and 2023, it is finally the time to buy properties, homes, raw land, apartments, multiplexes, whatever it may be. This is the time, and we're talking all about why that is in today's video. Quite recently, maybe a couple months ago, I made another video, I'll put right here, that I talked about, I started seeing the cracks in the real estate forming. And that was because I had a bunch of pieces of property or rentals that weren't being rented, both short-term and long-term. Now, granted, this was right after the pandemic hit last spring, early summer. Now, in that video, I was half right, but that inevitably makes me also half wrong. And with the recent changes in the last 6 months, I am now saying it is time to buy. And right now I'm telling you why this is the time for you, especially if you want to get rich off of this recession. And trust me, we are definitely in a recession, even if the stock market says otherwise. It's just doing its own thing. And the reason why we can take advantage of this is because the Federal Reserve is basically lobbing us a nice slow pitch wiffle ball right at us, ready for us to hit it out of the park. Yeah, I saw it happen back in 2009, 2010, and I jumped on it then, and it basically led me to an early retirement. And I'm gonna do it again this time to really build generational wealth. I didn't think I was gonna see it in such a short time period. I mean, it doesn't feel that long ago, but I guess it was 10, 11, 12 years ago. Geez, that's crazy. But it's happening again. And to tell you the truth, I'm not gonna even try to predict the future anymore. I was gonna say that I don't think it's gonna happen in the next 10 years, but who knows? The world is weird. But let's not bet on our prediction or what we think is gonna happen in the future. Let's just know that the current circumstances, the financial circumstances, interest rates is the key, and it's worth us looking deeper into it. Now, before we get any further in the video, I know that only about 15% of you guys who are watching this right now are subscribed to the channel. So if you like talking about making money, learning how to invest, and watching build projects as they come out, I've got a shipping container house, and I got a glam site, and I'm developing land down in Austin, Texas. Subscribe to the channel. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll be putting all the build updates on there as well. And if you think that 2021 is going to be a better year for everybody, including yourself, hit that like button. Let's trigger that YouTube algorithm. Now, the reason why it's time to buy right now in 2021 to maybe 2023 is because of this. Interest rates, more specifically prime rate, which has a direct reflection or correlation to mortgage rates. But we'll get into that in a second. If you stick towards the middle or towards the middle end of this video, I'll explain why and how you can actually take advantage of it today, actually. So you've lived near a major city in the United States, you've undoubtedly noticed that real estate market has actually been quite good, despite all the high unemployment and this pandemic and everything else that's going on. And the reason behind that is because of one reason: supply is low. That means there's not a lot of homes on the market right now. There's not a lot of listings because a lot of people aren't moving or selling. But how do we take advantage of it, Kai? And that is the interest rate. You can get into properties that are still very fairly priced, but at an insanely low rate. But it only works if you have the credit score and the money saved up and the source of income to come with it. You can get interest rates under 2%. Yes, I'm saying that correctly, 2%. Even on the high end, you're at high twos, between 2.5% to 3%, which is absolutely insane. And to give you a little perspective on it, the average inflation rate, basically how much money or your cash is losing every single year, is between 2.5% to 3%. Which means that the banks are charging you, or for a mortgage, is charging you the same amount as inflation. So whether you have cash stuck underneath your mattress, which you should never do, it's a bad idea, fire hazard, and you could lose it, but I digress, you shouldn't do that. But if you had cash in hand, or you had this 2.5% or even 2% mortgage rate, you're losing money at the same rate. And actually the cash is actually losing you money because it's not doing anything except sitting there. When you buy a piece of property, especially an income property, the thing that I'm always trying to step up on my soapbox and preach to you is that you're actually making money. Not only making money, but if you play it right, you actually have a piece of property that you can live in, make memories in, have a family, and do all that good stuff too, while you're making money and appreciating your asset. Now, I know there's a lot of naysayers out there, and I know that some of you are a little bit skeptical, which you should be. That's a good, healthy mind. I figure there might be some of you out there, so not convinced yet? Let me show you this. So let's compare apples to apples and see if I can convince you skeptical hippos out there. Now let's just say that we do wait. We wait a couple years and we think that prices will go down. So a house right now, and we'll use some simple numbers here. Let's say it's $350K right now, and that if we wait, it's gonna somehow miraculously go down to $300,000 in say 2024 or 2023. Which I highly doubt because nothing is pointing towards that much of a dip in the real estate market. But let's play in the sandbox for a second because it could be fun. Let's say that interest rates do creep back up to 5% or close to 5%. Let's see what happens if we have a $50,000 decrease in pricing, but we have an increase in interest rate. And the reason behind this is because no economy can support a 2% interest rate forever. So just using a basic mortgage calculator, we'll throw in here a $300,000 home. We'll assume that we're not going to put down a down payment just to keep it apples to apples and keep it simple here. You'd be paying about $1,565 each month on a 30-year fixed. Now let's say that you bought it right now and you bought it for $350,000. So you have to pay this $50,000 premium because you're buying it right now and we're not taking advantage of the potential price drop in the near future. But you can get an interest rate at only 2.5%, roughly half of what it would be at in a couple years. You'd be paying only $1,383. So the reality of things, yes, you did pay more for the house in terms of pricing. However, what you're actually paying out of pocket is actually less. And you're locking in a deal now instead of hoping for the best later on, several years down the road actually. But in the reality of all things, real estate is not going to drop 15% across the board. And so what will mostly happen is that the real estate market is going to stay basically stagnant or continue to increase at maybe 2 to 3% with maybe even 6% in some cities for the next 2 or 3 years. And then by the time you decide to pull the trigger on it, it's going to be no longer 350,000, but instead it's going to be about 375 to 380,000 with a 5% interest rate because we decided to wait. Now at the same time, I could be wrong about all of this and then the housing market crashes and interest rates goes even lower and then I'd feel really, really dumb and stupid. But I don't think that's gonna happen. A lot of stuff would have to go wrong for that to happen. So instead of letting your cash whittle away from inflation, you might as well invest it inside an income property at the same exact rate, if not lower. 30-year, 15-year mortgages have a little bit of a different rate. 15 years actually really advantageous. I've seen them below 2%. So when it comes down to it, if you'd ask me, your option is to either keep your money in cash or a low interest checking account at like 0.1%, or put it into real estate or an income property or something of that sort. Absolutely, hands down, real estate will give you a way better return. And right now with interest rates and the government and Federal Reserve already committing to not increasing interest rates for the next 2 years, maybe even longer to make sure that we step out of this recession in our economy, we've got some time, and that means that you also have some time to go back to all my previous videos and watch where I tell you, I shouldn't say that, that's a rude way of putting it, not telling you, but really asking you and showing you that right now, no matter what your age is or what your background is, saving money, improving your credit score, and start learning about basic finances. Because everybody who's done that in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they have set themselves up to really knock it out of the park right now and buy a piece of property, because no bank is going to lend to you, allow you to get a mortgage, especially if it's your first home or first investment property, if you don't have savings and you don't have a good credit score, and you need a source of income too, which is also important. Now I've painted this picture for you and I'm going to stand by it, and actually I'm not just telling you to do it, I'm actually actively doing it now. Many of you guys know I was just in Austin looking for land, and I'm also looking at land here in my area, and I'm definitely almost 90% sure I'm gonna probably pull the trigger on something here in my area as well, is because this is happening and I can't predict the future, and I know that right now is a good time to buy, even if prices haven't dipped that much. They've gone up maybe about 5 or 6% in my area alone the last year, which is pretty high. But it's not just about waiting for prices to fall and another 2008 or another collapse of the rent or the real estate market to happen. A lot of stuff has to go wrong for another 2008 to happen. And things never happen exactly the same twice. It's not how things work. But I wish things were that predictable, but they're not. And so what we need to stop doing, and I'm telling this to myself too, is stop trying to predict the market, but analyze the situation at right now and what can you do to make more money. And I can tell you right now, if I can borrow money at 2 to 2.5%, I can make money on that. And I think you can too. But yeah, you gotta go into it. You have to understand the market that you're going into. I'm not just saying go out there and buy any piece of property or any piece of home. That's a bad idea. You could lose a lot of money that way. But if you know your area well, you set up a strategy, you know what you're gonna do, and the most important thing is that you understand how to turn it into an income property, This is how you create true generational wealth. Not just money for you right now or for the next 6 months or the next 6 years, but really creating that money and that wealth for your family for generations to come. And if this is really your first home that you're gonna be buying, or it's your first real investment property that you're getting into, I got a couple of really nice good tips for you that I wish I knew when I first started. And a lot of these are basics, but I see a lot of missteps by first timers. Number one is buying a location that is expanding, not contracting. Don't just think about the city itself, but think about the county and then also the neighborhood that you're looking at purchasing in. Number two is buy a place that has a minimum of 2 different living areas. So whether that's a upstairs and a basement, it's a main house with an ADU out in the back or over the garage, or it's even a place where you can put a tiny home. It doesn't matter what it is as long as you can have 2 separate living quarters. One that you can live in yourself and the other where you do a long-term or short-term rental. The purpose of it is in your first home, your first investment, you want it to cash flow for you. And if you can do it while living there for free, that's even better. 3 is think long-term. Now I know I just said that we can't predict the future, but we can set up scenarios and do our best to plan. So make sure you go through that exercise of thinking, when I buy this piece of property, can I live in it? Can I rent it out? How can I rent it out? What does that look like? And if you can answer those questions, you might be setting yourself up for success. And the last piece of advice that I have for you is buy something that is not already perfect, ready to go. Buy with a little bit of a fixer-upper. Don't do a lot. Not a lot, because we're still new here, right? We want to learn. And when we do these small fixes, you actually increase your equity quite a bit. Typically, by doing your own work, for every dollar you put in and some sweat equity, is that you get $2 out in the back end. So find a place that you can update. A lot of people, they usually don't like buying homes that don't look great or smells kind of funky. I look at those and they're my dream homes because I know I can buy it at a discounted rate and then I can go in there and fix it up for $10,000, but increase my equity value by about 50 or 60,000. That is making quick money, relatively quick. Now, I know a lot of you guys are new to this, and I've actually been able to help and talk to a bunch of you out there who've had some great questions in our consultations. And this is something that interests you and you want to learn more about permitting, where to buy, how to get financing, what kind of credit score you want or you need to be able to start this, and how do you set up the strategy to actually make money off of your first property or income property. Hit me up. I got my email down below. We can set up a consultation. I usually do 60 to 90 minute Zoom meetings where we can talk about all this stuff and figure out exactly what's the best strategy for you. Remember, if you've watched at least 2 of my videos, hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay tuned for more market updates and watch me build out the next piece of land in this glam set that I got going on right out here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.